Okay, Brandy, first question.
My name is Mark Kane. My question is, what I'm picking up on in a lot of these county commissioner meetings is everybody's broke. The county is low on money, ODOT's low on money, everybody's out of money to do certain job tasks. One particularly that I'm interested in a lot is the county road on the north bank. There's a tail or a tide gate that's failing, extremely unsafe. It's a major safety issue. And I'm just wondering, who does the grant writing for the county, and how do the county commissioners, do they have any oversight on that and can control that? Instead of having the watershed entities control the money of spending. I'm kind of jumping around there, but anyway, how can money be spent in the million, obviously replacing a tide gate, everybody said it's a lot of money. Where can that money be sought after, and how can the county commissioners oversee?
So I believe the tide gates fall under a partial local, partial state funding structure. So what it may take is, like we've spoke about before, tenacious pushing, refusing to give up until we can find the money for it. The commissioners can absolutely have a role in that by being a voice for the people, taking these issues to Salem, to our legislators, and through the grant writing process, coming up with that money. I think it's going to depend on the person you elect to do the job and whether or not that person is actually going to have the tenacity to not stop pushing until the job gets done.
One more thing. Obviously, the tide gate is just for public people driving over it. It also is the main tributary on the Oak Hill River for the Chinook salmon, which just a few years ago were endangered. But due to the hard work of the STEP program, pushing Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife, which has dropped the ball on numerous occasions, as you've heard of in the news, where they've killed smolt, they've made the wrong decisions.
Yeah.
So anyway, this tide gate would be replaced correctly, would help three ways: help the endangered Chinook salmon, public safety, and third is, I guess, would be
Keep the salt out of your field.
and help the local farmers.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's an opportunity to get it. There's, of course, an opportunity to get it done. It's just going to be a matter of electing a commissioner that is committed to seeing these resolutions all the way to the finish. And that resolution may include working with the tribes and what they're doing to restore salmon.
I've had the tribe on my hand. We did smolt release center, and I told Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife that things weren't. This has been going on for 18, 20 years that they haven't helped the farmers replace the tide. And they keep saying, oh yeah, when we get some money, but then it just goes away.
I would be curious, something I would want to dive into as commissioner, if when we're looking at bringing in a USDA meat packing plant, if we can get some investor money too to help fix some of those issues.
Oh yeah, you've got
because we need the fields.
That used to have an area 2 miles up around. Now they're all gone. And I used to be part of a family that had dairies and beef cows. Yeah, it's all gone. And it's kind of sad to see a bunch of farms that are just basically turning into marshlands, but some people, that's what they want. And
because they're retired, they don't need to make money anymore. No offense to anyone that's retired, but a lot of us still we need to make our money, so we need to empower our ranches especially because our ranches are our middle class income. Ranching is something that any family can commit to do. They can raise some animals on their property and sell them and make a profit. Empowering individuals to make money without the government coming in and subsidizing it is one of my big goals. So making sure that those pastures are usable for ranchers is going to be hugely important.
One of my final question is do the county commissioners, are they supposed to be involved with the watershed entities and overseeing and making decisions?
Can you repeat that?
The commissioners that hopefully you will be elected, what I'm hearing, I'm going to vote for you.
Yes.
What control do you guys have over the Coquille watershed, the two soil water conservation districts, all these watershed people? There's tons of money that comes down from NOAA and then it gets allocated. And there's projects of 15 million, 8 million that were spent on the Coquille River, and it was a stupid, a waste, a failure. You can talk to West Coast contractors. The proof is there.
I believe that is funded by the state.
The state to who?
To the watershed districts.
Okay.
Yeah. And again, there's an opportunity to work there with those entities and work out grants, work out funds. It's probably going to be a multi-pronged solution where we get a little bit of help from a lot of people.
The debt on those folk that died in Beaver Slough, those were supposed to be released on my property. And I told them to get back to me to make a commitment to make the stream 7 Mile healthy again, and they didn't get back to me.
That's because you need a commissioner that will crawl up their behind.
Thank you.
So this gentleman's question is kind of got something sparked with me, Randy. So when John Sweet was pushing the public safety measure, the funding measure a couple of years ago, and put it on the ballot, and us the taxpayers kick in some more money, I was very supportive of it because I didn't see another solution from based off all the conversations I had from them. I'm like, you guys can't find the money, I guess you can't find the money. We need jail, at least 150 bed capacity. And I was kind of trying to help him with that. And I said, geez, you're printing your artwork and these flyers and stuff, John. Don't you have someone that can help you with this? Or you're an assistant, or he didn't have the capability to do it. He says, Steve, the commission, we don't have, we are the graphic designers. We do all of this. And then as I learned more and more about what they did as commissioners, what their limitations were, I started asking about grant writing. I'm like, well, do you guys have someone with the county that does grant writing? Well, this person kind of can do it, and I believe the addition of Drew Farmer, he has the ability based off his history to do grant writing. So I think you now have that quiver, available to you. But I look at this as the opportunity for the county. What can a community commissioner do and bring to the table? And what I saw with limitations with John, he doesn't have the ability to do this. He has connections. So what would you bring that's unique that you won't have an assistant?
What will I bring that is unique that I won't have an assistant do?
You won't have an assistant to do it. You got to do it. John has repeatedly said that to me, Steve. I don't have someone just laying around to do these functions. So I look at this now, the skills that the commissioners have themselves is huge because they're the only ones that are doing it.
Okay, I think I know where you're going with that. Because I don't have an assistant, what do I bring new to the table that is value add to the role of commissioner, right? So that's a fantastic question. I get to talk about how great I am. I'm an excellent coach. And what I do with my clients absolutely translates into what I can do for Coos County. So when I'm meeting with people, I'm having developmental conversations, and this may be meeting with other grant writers, meeting with investors, meeting with our tribes, meeting with the state, whatever it might be. I have the ability to grow a relationship with them, build those connections. I definitely don't need an assistant to do things like graphic design. Everything that you see associated with my campaign, I made myself. I didn't actually print the signs, I had to have those sent off, but the images that you see, and that's why they're hard to read, because I made them pretty, not effective. So lesson learned there. But so I've learned a lot from this campaign, but I do bring the ability to, built my own website, created my own graphic designs and marketing and logos. And so in that capacity, what else? You can't, is that kind of what were you thinking, is marketing and stuff like that, or were you thinking of something larger?
I don't know, on the grant writing side, just other things that can really add value to the county. Not looking for you to be a professional, team.
So I do not have grant writing history, because I just haven't been in a position where that was a skill that I needed to learn. I believe in the commissioner's role. If I needed to learn how to write a grant, I think I could pick it up pretty quickly. I'm pretty confident that that's something I wouldn't have a problem doing, and I would be happy to do it. If that's a way that we can bring money into the county, absolutely, I'm on it.
Yeah, or in that case, we have some very effective large nonprofits that are they kill it with grants, right?
Yeah.
There's I can think of 5 that have just gifted. If you said you can help the county, and you donate a little bit of your time to help me out, so I would utilize that.
Reaching out to the
Reach out to
community.
the people who are here to do it.
I think volunteerism and collaboration among our citizens is going to be really important, because we don't want to raise our property taxes. What that translates to in real life is that we have to do a lot of the work ourselves, because we're not paying someone else to do it with our property taxes. So that's kind of the trade-off, right? If you want low property taxes, you have to assume more responsibility personally for getting things done. If you don't want that responsibility of getting things done, you raise your property taxes and pay someone else to do it. Coos County has spoken quite a few times and says that they would not like their property taxes raised. So the solution really is, we as a community have to do the actual work, and working with our grant writers to kind of spread that knowledge out among as many organizations as we can is definitely a great way to get that done. That's kind of that cross services overlap that I've been talking about. It's the multiplier effect, where the sum of 2 things becomes greater than their individual parts separate. That's where we can really start to get more for our money, so to speak, and stretch that budget a little bit further.
I just you did mention about bringing in. One other thing that would be beneficial for the county is if you can bring the number of salmon up like they used to be in the Foothill, Coos River, all these local rivers. Think of the revenue. People coming here to fish and stay at the motels.
Absolutely, I want to eat them. Oh, more fish, more for me. Absolutely, and what we're doing there is working on putting fish boxes anywhere where people want them. We've got so many friends out in Fairview that are interested, and they live on the North Fork there, and they're like, sure, I'll and get my fish box up and going. And so working with individuals in the community who are interested in doing exactly that and empowering them with the equipment and the guidance that they need. And the tribe has, I believe, been very wonderful in helping people make that happen. So yeah, that's in our future for sure.
Amen. Want everything to stay the way it was before. They
fail or doers fail.
We're moving on from that, absolutely. We're not gonna be messing with them anymore. I think we've seen what they're capable of, and we're gonna go ahead and do something different.
We're ready for another one?
Thank you.
Alright, so, I'm very vocal about the fact that I hate politics. I think they suck. And I think,
We're the
Brian
worst.
Sweet is a politician. He talks sweet, or, no pun intended. And he's definitely voted on some ideological thing. That being said, I'm a proud Christian. I wish we were able to have a lot more Christian events in our town. But I do not think that it's anybody's business to pay for it except for the church. I don't think it's tax dollars. How can we be assured that you won't take the same steps as John Sweet and vote for ideological things and only vote for things that the county needs?
Well, that's a tricky question to answer. How can you know that I won't vote ideologically? You would have to look at my past history. I mean, I can sit here and tell you I wouldn't, because that's not how my brain even works. But you would just have to take my word for it, right? I think what you can do is look at my past professional performance and look at where I have worked in hard data, worked with facts, worked with logic and reason, and look in my professional history for instances of ideological sway. So when you look at my professional history, you're going to see where I worked, you're going to see what I did, and within that, you're going to see, does this make sense in the real world, or was this made up by someone? And I'll stop there. But you know what I mean? Because the only thing I have to give you to really answer the question is my word, and that I don't vote ideologically. And when it comes to governance, I think this is a hard thing to trust, but my personal perspective in governance is that my personal opinions are my personal opinions. They are not necessarily the best policy for the public. So I may feel a certain way about something, but I know that my feelings don't represent the majority of the voters, or don't represent the best outcome for Coos County. I put my personal beliefs second. Now, that's just me telling you that. You can go through my professional history and decide for yourself if you think I'm honest about that. But I can tell you that my brain just doesn't work on ideology. I'm very logic, facts, rational data. So that's kind of the antithesis of how my brain works. Sure.
Next question. What would you do with regards, and what do you think the commission should do with regards to ICE?
In regards to ICE. So I don't have any interest in pushing back against state law. I will say here in Coos County, I don't think we're overwhelmed with Venezuelan gang members where we need an ICE sweep. It seems ridiculous to me. I would like to see our local law enforcement coordinate with ICE in a very low-key and scalpel-level targeted attack on cartels. So where the public doesn't even really know they're here, they came in, they got the bad guys, and they got out. That's something I would be interested in working on them with. But as far as having them sweeping schools, sweeping churches, I just do not think that would be a good thing for Coos County. Now, I will say the fact that Oregon State feels entitled to buck federal law, but will not allow counties to buck state law. So if we as a county choose to not follow the state mandates of sanctuary cities, sanctuary state mandates, they will defund us. And when they defund us, we lose all of the services that we are required by the Oregon State Constitution to provide. When that happens, the state can financially sequester us. That means the state now runs everything. And if you look at how the state runs things, we maybe don't want that here. And so it is a delicate balance between the hypocrisy of our state deciding they don't have to follow law, but the counties do, and the harm it would do to our county if we didn't follow the state law, even if it was breaking federal law. What I would do as a commissioner is vote to keep my county financially intact, even if I didn't agree with what the state was telling me to do. It is a catch-22. It is a complete lose-lose. But regardless of how I feel, I can't put the county in financial danger by making decisions based on what I think. And I think, does that answer your question? I know it's tough because we're really, I was talking earlier to Commissioner Drew Farmer about the 2 oaths of Richard Helms. And I don't know if any of you in the audience probably not read it, but it is about an agent who had to sign an oath to Congress and an oath to the CIA. Well, which oath did he uphold when Congress called him to testify? He had an oath to the CIA to basically lie for the president. Well, when Congress brought him up, he had to either break his oath to the CIA or lie to Congress. I can't remember how. I won't say how it came out because I can't remember. I have to go back. We're going back about 15 years. But it reminded me of that when you put a person in an impossible situation where there are no right choices. I think the choice really is to look at what's right for Coos County, what makes sense for Coos County and what doesn't, and try to find a middle ground. And I don't think that middle ground is going to be screaming at each other from a sidewalk. We need to be really sitting down and having serious conversations about what we want our county to look like and how we're going to get there. Thank you. Next question.
Hi there, my name is Ray, and I'm curious, I think I'll actually tell you my question. You hear crime a lot in the house with Baton County, we all agree with that. And so do you have any thoughts on how we could reduce crime in our county and maybe a little on our jail? Any thoughts on getting more beds in the jail that can be used?
You just asked my favorite question. The answer is yes, absolutely. So talking about combining those services, overlapping services, we have an opportunity because we have space in our jail, but no money. We have money in our public health services through Coos Health and Wellness, Bay Area First Step, Adapt. They have the money, but they have no space. So we do, I believe right now, they have begun bringing mental health services into the jail. That has started. So what we have an opportunity to do is create a genuine rehab program. In my grand vision, I see a work program coming back. We know that work programs in the jails reduce recidivism. It's been proven over and over because it teaches the skills a person needs when they get out of jail to self-sustain. They need to learn the habit of getting up and going to work every day if they're going to do it when they get out. And so teaching those habits while they're incarcerated is going to be super important. One way we can do that is by partnering with our public health facilities, bringing these facilities in so that they can work on behavioral and drug rehab with our imprisoned populations. Doing that would dramatically reduce recidivism because we have relearning, literally learning the behaviors of getting up and going to work in the morning so that this person can support themselves and they don't end up back in that cycle that got them in jail in the first place.
And how about opening up more beds?
That would open up more beds.
Because you would have people.
we would have more resources. So we would need those beds. So you could have like a tier of like these people need to be locked up. And then you can have a tier of these people need a break from the environment they've been in to rehabilitate. And then you could have those tier of people who are working their way out. They've been holding down a job. They've been getting therapy and behavioral rehabilitation. And so there is an opportunity to really actually open up the whole jail, not necessarily just for incarceration, but for an entire rehabilitation kind of facility. So it would really be changing the function of the jail itself, or evolving the function. It's a possibility. So absolutely, yeah. Yeah, sure. This gentleman.
I guess I can give it to this
Oh, you got one right here just for you. We put that there just for you.
one. I guess, my main question to you, Brandy, is when you get elected county commissioner, what will be your fine directive, or for that matter, any public servant that gets elected? What should be their prime directive to the citizens?
My prime directive is going to be beelining for more people like me and stewarding them into positions of leadership in our county. Because I can't do it all by myself, I need help. So I need to be bringing up leaders who can help me do the work, whether it be citizens who are going to replace me when my 4 years is done. And so that stewardship is going to be huge. Something that, and stewardship also ties into supporting economy. We need workers with skills. So really supporting our local workforce development and making sure that we're getting people in contact with the skill teachers that they need. My other big focus is crime. We need to live in a safe county. We deserve to live in a safe county. Some of the things that have happened over the last few years have been absolutely atrocious. I felt safer the 8 years I lived in New York City than I do in the Coos Bay North Bend area. And that is because New York City had police and they took crime seriously. One of the issues we have with crime, and again, a lot of people are not going to like this answer, but we have a little bit of a culture problem. We have a little bit of an issue with people who think that they just need more help. Sometimes that's true, and sometimes what they really need is just a little bit more consequence. Right now, we are very, very, very lenient. Part of that is because of jail space. Part of that is because of the culture here in Coos County. We do have a permissive culture. And so one of the things that we can do to address that is have these conversations. Is feeding people who rob your neighbors the right thing to be doing? That's a tough conversation to have. When people who are giving the food to people living on the street, they think they're doing God's work. Meanwhile, they're giving a meal to someone who is literally going to rob their neighbor's back porch that night. So we, as a community, we have to have these conversations about what accountability looks like, what acceptable behavior looks like.
Along those same lines, a lot of this permissiveness comes from sale.
Yeah.
You talk to any police officer, and if they're honest with you, they are feeling hamstrung.
I hear that hamstrung word a lot.
When they know if they make an arrest, they take it to the county jail. Before they get the paperwork, that individual's back out on the street. And until we do something about that, and basically what you've got is the politicians from Portland and Eugene area ruling the state. Now we got people out, well, no more kings. Well, we got a queen, ladies and
We got a question. You want to come up here?
Yeah, about what he said about the police. I talked to a police officer and he said that he didn't quite know what he could arrest anybody.
Who's got
That's
the
not my question, but I just thought.
Oh, are you way back there? Okay.
I was wondering about property taxes. They seem to go up about 3% every year. And I come from, I moved from Arkansas, and they had a thing for disabled people. And their taxes actually got lowered to a certain degree and could never be raised again. They're kind of keep raising property taxes. They're pricing elderly people out of their homes.
Yeah, it's definitely a big problem. So there are things within the assessor's office that does try to mitigate that. There are formulas that they go by to make sure that that doesn't happen. Seems like it still does happen. My personal opinion is that property tax is a violation of the Fifth Amendment takings clause. If I ever get the opportunity to sue over that, I'm totally going to try to take it to the Supreme Court because I think property taxes are unconstitutional. But that's my personal belief. As commissioner, there's not a lot I can do about that. The 3% is baked in, and there is property taxes that are controlled by the state, and then there's the county property tax. I believe that property county tax, the one that's levied by the county itself, I believe that has not increased. Maybe beyond the 3%, it hasn't increased. What do we do about it? There are options. We have, and this is kind of a spicy option, you can feel about it how you will. It has been proposed that we do a tax swap. So the county can choose not to levy its property tax in lieu of a county sales tax. The way that it has been talked about structuring is creating caveats for things like medications, food, large items like furniture and cars, so we don't put our large business owners out of business. Basically trying to tailor it so that we target our visitors more. And working the numbers, it actually looked like it would work. Property tax payers in the county would need to spend, I believe, $22,000 here in the county before they paid as much money as they would pay on their property tax bill. So looks like it could be a pretty sweet deal for Coos County if we wanted to make that transition. However, there would be accounting involved. People would have to get on board. There would be money collection. There's a lot of moving parts to make it happen, but that is an option. I'm looking for every possible loophole to get people out of property taxes, especially ones that are based on the value of your home. I strongly believe that taxing on speculative value is wrong. Because what happens is you have a government that can come in at any time and say, well, we think your house is worth $800,000. That's terrifying. And so in my personal opinion, property taxes should not be able to be charged above what the home last sold for. There are some issues around providing services to homes, like making sure your fire department, your police department, things like that are paid for. So property taxes do serve a purpose like that. There are instances where other things have gotten tacked onto property tax though, and that actually, there was a permitting process found unconstitutional by the Supreme Court in 2004. Using the logic of their ruling, I think it is only going to take one really determined person to take their property tax bill all the way to the Supreme Court, and it may unravel the entire blanket of property tax. So we might, as a county, want to start looking at alternative funding because that might come to an end. I will say, though, that what the county collects is pretty modest in comparison to our neighboring counties. But yes, I mean, to answer your question, I hate property tax and I would love to abolish it. Whether or not I will be able to, I doubt it. But I'll be there pushing it any chance I get.
Next question.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, with, some of the events, called town hall meetings that occurred in Coos County.
Yes.
It was awesome. It was applauded by all the local people. There was a, situation where the county was bolstering, telling people we own 60 feet on 30 feet on each side of the, center line or on county roads. And they were telling people how they needed to do their fences. They couldn't repair it unless they got a permit. Anyway, the town hall meeting came out and there were people, literally pitchforks that showed up, and it was awesome. And I suggest that you, with the other commissioners, put more town hall meetings on, because you're gonna get a lot of help and commitment from the local, people, the majority of the people, on how they feel. And obviously, you want to represent the majority of the people, so when they have those meetings and the people voice their opinion, that's what you can go by.
Yeah.
And get help from the local people.
Yeah.
So, I would suggest you push for more town hall meetings. And the people will come up with ideas.
That's exactly what we need to do, because I do think the solutions to our county's problems lie here with our residents.
I mean, it's easy to just sit back and complain, which I personally have done myself, but when you bring the people together and you make a commitment, it happens. Things will move, things will start happening.
Because you get buy-in.
Yes.
When you have that conversation and people kind of hash out their disagreements and we come to a workable solution, now you have buy-in where people are really committed to the project. Absolutely.
Okay, so, I think everybody usually agrees that, like, we want to clean up our county. We want everything, we want the funds to go everywhere that it can go to clean up the county so that there's less complaining, on what's happening in our county, so everything goes better. And we were talking about the overlapping, two things, we put them together, it becomes much larger. And as far as like our jails, capacity, we don't have any community service that we're giving these criminals that are coming in and out of our jail, they're just being let go. They're not having that option or consequence to do community service to actually clean up some of the trash everywhere in our county. Do you think that would be something that would be beneficial to also make sure that we do have room for those bad criminals in our county that are just getting let go, so that the lesser crimes would have some consequences rather than being let go of community service, clean up our county, so they're doing something for us, and then have those, bigger crimes, they have more time in jail rather than being focused on police.
The community service is actually a really great idea, because you can take a person who is a lower level criminal who maybe is not a threat to the general public. Maybe they were got multiple DUIs and lost their license, and they're really, so they're not driving anymore. Rather than have that person sit in jail, because having people sit in jail is really expensive, having a community service program is a very smart idea. It can work both ways, teaching a person what responsibility feels like, what obligation feels like, and it also saves the county some money that way. So yeah, absolutely, bringing back community service programs is a wonderful idea. And if we pair it with, picking up trash is maybe not a long-term skill set, but that's just one example of many things that we could have nonviolent inmates doing, and that would be part of a work program that would help build those self-sustaining behaviors as well. Yeah, definitely. That's absolutely something that we could look at doing. Yeah.
That's exactly. Town hall meetings, that makes sense. People talk about it, come up with all these ideas.
There you go. Yep.
Well, as far as these community service, we used to have that here in City World.
We did, I remember.
And then the progressives got started in Salem. Now they're calling it slavery. You've got two senators in DC that can't hardly go a week without, oh, we can't keep doing that. Like last summer, the Oregon State Penitentiary has a program.
Yes, so what you have to do with people like that, so what they're doing is they're using covert abuse tactics. And you really just have to stop them with data. Just stop them straight in their tracks and refuse to you have to go right to the data and say, this actually does work. And you have to pin them down on that.
That's fine and dandy, but you've got people in this state that hear that coming from their public servants, and they've taken this gospel, and they gobble it up, and then they see a work party. Oh, next thing you know, you got people marching in the streets.
Too bad. I mean, you can't let that stop you from doing the right thing. You know, there's going to be complainers. You got to do the right thing anyway. Anyway, we're a little bit over time, and I have some closing remarks if you guys will give me just a few more minutes. Thank you all. By the way, great questions, you guys. Thank you. These are really good questions. This is where all the important stuff is. Okie dokie. So I just wanted to thank you all for coming tonight. You took the time to learn, ask questions, and engage in the future of Coos County. Strong communities are built by informed voters, thoughtful conversations, and people who are willing to step forward and participate. Your presence here matters, and your support is building a campaign focused on clarity, transparency, and practical solutions for our county. If you believe in me and want to help me win, there are several ways to help. Make a contribution. Donations are the powerhouse. We need gas, we need signs, we need advertising, and we need community events like this. Frankly, a candidate who pays for their own campaign shouldn't be running because they don't have the support. You can prove I should be up here by visiting the donation table. Volunteers. I need help with door knocking in late April, phone calls, and sign placement. Sign placement is a big one that you guys can help out with. So grab a handful of signs and place them wherever you see others. I don't necessarily know where the signs are supposed to go, and I'm still trying to figure that out, but I assume John Sweet has done this several times already, so he knows where to put his signs. So we're gonna learn from him, and rather than reinvent the wheel, just stick my sign wherever you see his sign. Make it easy. There is also a sign-up sheet for volunteering out. Oh, there was supposed to be a sign-up sheet that I maybe didn't print out. We'll get a sheet up there of some kind, and if you guys can write your name and number, I'll reach out. And so whatever you write down what your volunteer, what thing you're good at. And the other thing you can do is spread the word. Tell your friends. Make sure they understand their vote matters. Back in 2016, 2017, there was this really loud push to convince people that their vote doesn't matter. What ended up happening is voters became disengaged and the extremists gained more power. We need our moderates to vote and know their vote matters. That's one of the reasons I encourage you all to drop your ballot directly at the Coos County Courthouse, because then your ballot can't get lost. And it doesn't, that way we don't overwhelm the USPS, and it's a direct line from your hand right to the county clerk. And make sure to understand that your vote matters, because if you don't all vote, I don't win. Tell your friends, tell your family, and your coworkers to visit my website, Brandy for Coos online, and to check their voter registration online to make sure they get a ballot. Host a small gathering. This is a fun one. If you can set up a meet and greet, I can be there. It could be your home, it could be a church, or it could be a bar. I actually really like going to other people's churches. It's super fun. If you'd like to host a get-together, add your name and a number to the sheet that will be out there with a note for meet and greet. The other thing you can do is stay connected. You can follow me on Facebook at Friends of Brandy Martindale or on Instagram, and I have a YouTube channel. You can share my campaign information. That really helps others online stay informed. You can display support. So put up a sign in your own yard, grab a stack of postcards and flyers to deliver or distribute where you're allowed, and post photos of yourself with my sign online, you know, like take a sign selfie and put it out there so people can see you. People seeing that support and seeing that this is a group effort, that really does matter. All of this works because people can't choose me if they don't know me. And everyone knows John Sweet. He's been commissioner for several terms now. And so my real struggle is getting people to know me, and that's where I need your help. You are all my first degree connections that are going to introduce me to more by spreading the word about my candidacy. That's how we win. So coming from where I have, it is an absolute honor and a privilege to be standing on this stage tonight. I never had a life plan, and I never saw myself entering politics, but I believe I am right where I'm meant to be right now. I believe Coos can change for the better, and I'm running for Coos County Commissioner with the goal of coaching this county into a new chapter of prosperity. I ask that you join me. Thank you again for your time. Thank you for your support, and thank you for your commitment to the future of our community. Good night, everyone.